I'm here at the Hetfield house. I'm Jane Doherty, and I've been a ghost investigator for at least 20 years.
Hi, I'm Don Jecka, your host for today's program. You know, it's said that some people think that old houses have a personality all of their own. And our guest today can testify to that, I'm sure. She has a lot of experience in this area. She's done over 20 of these investigations of houses such as this. And in fact, some of these houses, the previous owners have made their presence known by things like knocking over chairs and things falling down the stairs, strange noises, all of the above. And so some people also think that houses like this are haunted, and the presence of ghosts are often explained. In fact, some of our own committee members have experienced things within this house that are unexplainable. So our guest today is Jane Doherty, and I hope that among all of our guests that are viewing this today, we'll offer her a warm welcome, and we'll continue the program from there. Jane, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're going to go into the house later on, but I just wanted to ask you first some general questions about your background. And I know, like, when did you get into this psychic business?
Actually, it's probably around 25 years ago is when I began, but I did not have the psychic ability opened. I actually went to a psychic who told me that I would be a famous psychic, and I was a skeptic and didn't believe. That's what my whole book is about, is that whole journey. So it took me a few years to develop it.
But you did, as a young person, experience some...
A couple of things, but not anything that I would name psychic. Although now looking back, especially the one that when I was in about 7th grade, my mother had a cancer scare. And at that time, I told my girlfriends at the lunch table that someday they'll find out that cancer comes from the food we eat, and the cure is also in the food. And I find that interesting today as we learn more and more. It's certainly pointing in that direction.
And you did say that as you approached the building here, when you passed the millstone, you experienced some message or whatever.
Yes, as I passed that, it's almost like I wanted to go and sit on it or to be around it more, to just meditate and to feel, because I felt that there was something that was in that area without me actually going over to it, just approaching it.
You know, it's been said that almost everybody that experiences a psychic, I don't know what you would describe it as, but some psychic event, usually it's scary. Are all ghosts scary?
No, not at all. I think that it's the TV and the movies that show it to be scary, but I have experiences where a ghost has actually tried to help a person. I'll tell you one experience on US 1. Someone was traveling at a speed of about 80 miles an hour, and what happened is a dark clothed figure, almost like a Grim Reaper figure, appeared in the roadway. She slammed on her brakes, and at that, it was just a few feet from where the highway was dug up, and if she had hit that at that speed, she probably would have been killed or injured.
Wow.
And there's others where a spirit actually would go to a baby that's crying, and by the time the mother would get in there, the baby would stop. You know, and there was this, so there's lots of examples of spirits actually helping us rather than harming us.
So you shouldn't always be afraid of a ghost.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Well, when we get in this house, we're going to tour through it a little bit and see if you can detect anything unusual here. As I mentioned before, some of our committee members have had unexplained circumstances in the house. One was something falling off of one of the tables when nobody else was around. Another one was a strange picture of a in through a window, things like that.
Ghost phenomenon seems to have become more popular than it ever was.
Yeah.
There's a change. I mean, I'm in the field 25 years, and I was president of the Jersey Society of Parapsychology for 10. And, you know, when I first began, when I would go to my daughter's games, I would actually have a book and have the book covered so nobody can see what I was reading, because it was still in the closet back then. But I always knew it was going to open up. And the fascination with it now, the interest, is a good thing. And the reason is that I know that there is, if you want to call it a rule on the other side, that spirits of our loved ones can't come near us if we're afraid. So what's happened, I see a correlation. As people warm up to this idea of ghosts and they're not afraid anymore, there are more people having experiences with their deceased loved ones. Mm-hmm. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Now, you mentioned to me before that you have a physiological experience when you're getting into your psychic mode. Is that what you would describe it as?
It's a physiological reaction to spirit energy, which is very unusual. I'm the only person that I know of, although I just got an email from someone in England, a medium, who is having something similar to what I go
Mm-hmm.
through. And what happens when I get near spirit energy, you will see my stomach will expand anywhere from 3 to 6 inches. It's been measured to do. And that's how I locate the ghosts. I'll first let that happen as I go in, and then I'll get into my psychic mode to determine who it is.
Well, with that introduction, we'll continue the program by going inside the house with Jane. But first of all, I want to welcome all of our viewers to this program of Welcome to the Hetfield House.
Stomach is reacting already. Wow. Okay, right here around this furniture in this little nook is where I'm sensing spirit energy. Now, what to me it feels as though it is a female, and I would say the kind of clothing. It's to me looks like it's like a long skirt and a blouse with billowy sleeves. I don't know what period in history that would be, but maybe when we speak to someone who does know history, we might be able to figure that out. It feels to me as though she is someone that would be, I don't feel it's a servant, it feels to me as though she's elegant, a classy kind of feeling. So I would say she's entertaining people, you know, in the house, in what I'm feeling. And it feels to me as though she's still doing that, as though she comes to this area and wants to set a nice table and somebody is visiting of importance, is the way that I feel that. Her hair looks to me almost as though it is pulled back in some way, so it may be in an updo sweep. That I don't feel that she's confused. I feel as though she is, it's a place that she was most familiar with. It's a place that she loved, and she still feels it's her place in that sense that she wants to keep experiencing. When you're on the other side, there are times that you don't have to be confused, that sometimes people will just want to stay where they were because they loved it so much, or they're living through their memories, and she may be just coming at certain times or frequently coming to relive this memory of those days when she had, I would say, dignitaries here and she was dining with them. Again, I'm sensing a woman, but I feel it's different than what's there, because I'm almost feeling as though somebody is rocking in it at various times, and it could actually be someone who is attached to the rocking chair and not actually to the house. So, and we find that with antiques, there can be spirits attached to them. But I definitely feel as though there is a rocking here at times. I'm sure if you were to stay overnight in the house, you'd probably hear, or you're alone in the house, you'd probably hear these sounds. Okay. See, I'm reacting by this couch. Interesting, this room is a very active room. You've got varied, but if this is a house that's of different periods, you can have that. Again, it's making me feel that it's a woman. There's a lot of women in this room. The whole energy feels to be very feminine to me. And I would think that there would be times you might actually see in a depression in the seat if you're sitting here. It feels almost as though someone is watching me in this room. I don't feel bad with it, but I'm definitely feeling as though I'm being watched as I sit in these particular areas and view it. As entering this room, I'm also having a physical reaction. This is a heavier energy in here, so that to me makes me feel it's male. And I get hiding. I get the word hiding in this particular area. That's why I opened the door, because I was wondering if that went to a cellar or something like that, because I definitely get a hiding kind of situation. Here I am. I'm very much expanded. And ever since I've walked into this area and I'm looking out that window, again, it makes me feel as though I am looking out, looking for activity. And it may have to do with soldiers. That definitely makes me feel as though I'm looking for any kind of movement of soldiers coming and looking for things like that. See, now this is a I'm reacting in this entire room, and I'm actually getting chills. So it makes me feel that there is a lot of activity in this room, or they're all coming at this point into this room because they know I'm in here and they're gathering towards my energy. It's like I'm getting a series of things. It makes me feel like I'm looking at soldiers, and it makes me feel like I'm looking at something modern. So there's a mixture of feelings that I'm getting when I know. I'm wondering if this is the old part of the house or not. Do you know if this is is this an old part to the house? See, I want to go out that way, but I can't. It's a window. Okay, now, I don't know if there's been any activity reported or not, because as I stop here, it's almost as though I can hear, I would think they're children. There's giggling going on. It feels like it's off in a distance. I can see a young girl playing. It looks like there's a boy. It looks like there's two girls and a young boy. and I can hear giggling going on as though they're playing. Now I don't know if it's in this what this was at one time, but it can be in this room as I'm hearing it. And I don't know if anybody's ever heard that sound, which I'll have to ask later to see if there's ever been that. I keep getting the name Abby or Abby. It feels to me as though it's a young girl and she's got curls. I would say what I'm looking at would be someone that may be, in our day and age, probably a teenage girl, because she's like at the mirror, combing her hair is a sense that I'm getting. And so she could be, I could be picking up something in the bedroom, but I'm perceiving it down here. Abby. Wow. This is really cool, because as soon as I walk in here, I feel like I've walked back in time.
Jane, this is the earliest part of the house.
This is the earliest part. I don't know if you're going to know this history or not, but afterwards we'll discuss it. But I'm getting as though that there's somebody who died in this room. And it feels like it's a man, and it feels like I can see him slumped over. I can see a woman trying to help him. So I'll ask you that later, if there's been anybody that you know that's died that you're aware of, that's died in here. Pick up the name Charles. And as soon as I came in here, it's almost like I want to say Sarah. It's another name. I'm also getting an illness. It seems to be high fever, a coughing, and a respiratory problem. And I feel that is a woman who's died young from some sort of a high fever and respiratory problem. All right, now as I'm walking, and I don't know whether sometimes information will come and it's not in the room that I'm in. And that's just the way it happens, is that I'm getting it from the whole house. But I am getting meetings in here, in the building, in the house. Not current day meetings, I'm talking about historically, some sort of historic meetings taking place in here, or plans being made in some way that would have to do with history, something back in history. Okay, as I'm walking, I'm also seeing soldiers. I'm seeing a man, and it looks like he's got a black coat on that seems almost as though there's tails or something that's long as I'm walking. And then I'm also seeing soldiers. I'm seeing movement of soldiers going on. I don't know all the ghost activity that people have experienced here, but standing here, and I'm using my second hearing, so to speak, what I sense is either a ball bouncing or there's footsteps that are heard upstairs. You'll hear something and you're down here. You're not quite sure that you've heard it, and then it disappears. So there is sounds that I am hearing that are off in the distance that I know that has happened here or will happen. Because sometimes what'll happen is once I've been in a place, I'll pick up some sort of activity and then it happens because they're almost trying to let you know that their presence is here, or they're going to let you know their presence is here. And it's a way of preparing you without frightening you that there's going to be activity. Wow. I almost want to say that I'm feeling an absence of energy, rooting it to right here. It seems almost as though the soil doesn't feel as though it's original in some way, and I don't know what I'm getting with that, but it just doesn't feel. I'm feeling the house, but I'm not feeling the whole surroundings. So there's either the add-ons have done it, or there's something else that's happened with the house that's making me feel that energy is strange, as though it's not where it was or is. Okay. As I enter this room, I'm again having a physical reaction, and I'm definitely reacting with a shiver. It feels to me that this room would have a lot of activity. If I were to sit in here and, let's say, do a seance, I'm feeling a great deal of cold energy in here. And it almost feels as though there's a studying, books being looked at, plans being made. Again, I keep picking up plans, so there has to be something that was a part of history and planning and having to do with war. Now, I get a reaction here by the fireplace. So I would say right here would definitely be an area that spirit actually walks. And I can feel the path of it. If I'm here, I'm in my normal self. If as I walk to it, I'll have the physical reaction and you can see what's happened. But it's like as I get past the fireplace, it's releasing me. So this right here would be an active spot. I'm feeling as though spirit is walking back and forth here, as though very pensive, thinking. And again, there's that word planning that keeps coming to me, and decisions being made. I definitely feel that, and I don't know who the original owner is, and I'm not going to say, because I don't know for sure whether it's Hetfield or not, but I feel that an original owner of the house is here. And to me, it is a male that is still from the one of the original owners. Wow. Okay. It's interesting, in walking in this room, I'm feeling it's what I would call a clean room. This is just a room as far as I'm concerned. I'm not feeling anything in here either. This is where I'm feeling, again, the children. Because I can still hear like giggling and seeing that young girl with the corkscrew curls brushing her hair. So it would be in this area here where I sense her. Also getting the name Hannah. And I hear also the name William. As soon as I enter the room, I'm having a physical reaction to spirit energy. It almost looks like I can see a bit of a haze. I am also feeling as though, or I'm wondering if they ever hear anything in here that's footsteps, but it's almost like I'm hearing heavy male footsteps. I can actually see when I'm in here a man getting up and putting on big heavy boots. It seems to me that what you have is, I think, a lot from late 1700s or the 1800s, that it's more during that period rather than something that is modern to, let's say, the 1950s on, or 40s on, or 30s on. It just feels as though it's back in time rather than anything that is really modern. Generally, I don't feel, going through the rooms, that there is any confusion. I'm not feeling, the mood doesn't feel as though there's anything to be frightened of. And it feels almost as though they've learned to coincide with. And I'm also feeling as though outside there's a man that will walk outside. It's the spirit. It's almost as though they're walking a path, or they're looking for something, trying to go back to where something was, where something used to be. I don't know what I'm getting, but in talking about it, I may be able to put the pieces together. Also hearing the name Jack. Also makes me feel as though I'm looking at a funeral, somebody being laid out in this house. Maybe what I sense downstairs, but I'm also feeling that there was someone who died in a war, a soldier. I'm also sensing women. That hat that was in the room, I can see that. It's almost as though I've got, like going to church. There's something with church that seems to be very important. I don't know how religious they were, but there's definitely an aspect of religion in church that I'm sensing. Who's here, it's like wanting to go to that, is going to a church and visiting. and that seems to be an activity that I still feel that they do, getting dressed to go to church and going off in a certain direction, which is interesting to me. Maybe what we can do now is I'll have some questions, and they may have some questions of me, so we can put the pieces of the puzzle together, and we might be able to identify more clearly who is here from what time period. I don't know much about history, so that's the part that I get stumbled on, but that's good, because I can't approach a building looking at it and knowing something from history just by looking at it. So I'm glad that I don't know my history. I'm blocked from it, and I think there's a reason for it, because I can't pick up anything that has to do with history. But we'll sit down and talk and see what we can piece together now.
Well, Jane, that was wonderful. And just following you around the house answered a lot of the questions that we would have. For instance, did you feel other presences here, people present? And you answered that and said that it was a combination of adults and children.
Yes.
Which makes a lot of sense, because there were children growing up in this house. And also, you said that you had the feeling of soldiers being here.
Oh, absolutely. That's a strong feeling.
Yeah. We have no particular record of that, but I'm sure they were because of the timing. It would have been during the Revolutionary War, and I'm sure there were soldiers everywhere. And I believe you detected like long black coat.
Yes. I got an image of a man with a long black coat that seemed, I can't tell whether they're tails or not, but it's like longer.
But the combination of the long black coat and getting ready for church, for instance, you had that. And of course it was the deacon Hetfield's house, so that would make a lot of sense.
Oh, okay.
You got that.
Then that would be why I felt that whole presence of religion and getting ready for church.
Exactly.
Oh, certainly if a deacon lived here.
Right. So I'm sure you demonstrated your expertise as a psychic, which is what we needed, and I'm sure it would be much more enjoyable to the viewers to know that this house has a lot of history going for it. There are still partly that presence here, and you also picked up that it was not on the original soil.
Yeah, it was a strange feeling. Like usually when I go to a house, I can feel that connectedness, and here I didn't feel the connectedness to the soil.
And that is because the house has been moved.
Oh wow, where has it been moved from? How far from here?
This house was moved within about 1.5 miles or less. It was up on the knoll up there on Route 22. The Dutch oven, actually it was an antique house at one time. I mean, they sold antiques from it. And it was moved 25 years ago.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
that's why you would have picked.
Yeah, it was a very different feeling for me, because I just couldn't feel the roots. You feel the whole, but that was empty. It was absent.
But can you compare going through this house with some of the other ones that you've gone through? Has it been more intense, less, or?
I think where I feel the most intensity is in that original part, because I was feeling a lot of death there with somebody dying in that room, and then also picking up the fever and respiratory problems. So that to me was intense, because I was feeling death in that room. So that's active. I would say that it's pretty intense. I would feel, in comparison to some of the other places I've been, there is a strong, that illness, and then the religious part really got me, that it hit me.
Did you get the feeling that anybody was trying to
To communicate with me?
With you?
Let me see. If I had to say, I would say yes. The woman that I sensed in that first room, and I'd have to go back when it was talking about religion. It seemed there was an intensity of wanting to communicate. So I'd have to say, if a deacon lived here, that would be the spirit I was picking up, and of course that would make sense.
Yeah.
If he, maybe he had things to say about religion, just some comments to make or whatever. A strong communication I felt there, very strongly.
The other thing I wanted to ask you was if there was any spirit that was on a negative side here.
No, absolutely not. I didn't feel any of that whatsoever. It felt as though the spirits really are hanging out here. Mm-hmm. It's a place they used to be before. So they want to come and visit, and they want to hang out for a while and retrace their footsteps of what they did when they were alive. But I don't feel anything negative. There's no negative presence at all.
And did you catch any sense of any connection between the people that occupied this house and the people that are now members of the Historical Preservation Committee?
That's interesting. I would have to say yes, because in my work in historical places, I find that people attracted to historical places have a connection, and it may be from a past life. It could be that they were once alive during this period of time, and they could actually remember the house, and that's what draws them to them. Now, if I had all of the members in front of me and I'd look at them, I probably would find one or two that I feel would have a very strong connection.
It's just been a wonderful conversation with you today, Jane. And
it's a really cool house.
That's marvelous. And I would just invite all the viewers to make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to have more and more and more programs in this series. And I will just repeat, welcome again to the Hetfield House.